Hi, welcome to Miss Richardson's U.S. History 5-Minute Lectures. This information will be U.S. Notes 5.21, President Johnson and the Great Society. It includes information that aligns with the final section on your Unit 5 study guide. Remember, you have control over the lecture, so use your study guide to help you take notes, pause, write down any questions, and re-watch as often as you need. Let's go ahead and get started. I've already told you about President Johnson and his actions regarding Vietnam, but that's not all he did as president. Today, I want to tell you more about his presidency and domestic actions. When Johnson took over the presidency after Kennedy was assassinated, he continued many of JFK's domestic programs. He signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. These dealt with the fair treatment and voting rights for African Americans. We talked about them during part 1 of the unit, so they should be familiar to you. In addition to these two laws, Johnson had many other programs aimed at improving the life for Americans in the U.S. As a whole, his agenda and these programs are known as the Great Society. Other non-race specific policies Johnson supported included his war on poverty, the creation of Medicare, and the creation of HUD, or the Department of Human and Urban Development. The war on poverty focused on improving lives of those who lived in poverty. You may remember from our last unit, many Americans were very poor during this time. This war on poverty was a group of programs designed to combat poverty. It created a Job Corps that paid high school dropouts while they trained for industrial jobs. It also created VISTA, or Volunteers in Service to America, a volunteer organization that went to depressed areas in the U.S. to teach people new skills. Both were designed to give poor Americans skills so they could earn money and no longer be poor. The war on poverty also addressed the issue of a lack of education in poverty-stricken groups. The Head Start program was a program that was created to help prepare children for school so all children would be ready to learn at the same level when they entered public school. This plan also addressed the elderly in poverty. Johnson created Medicare, medical insurance for those over 65 years old. This meant health issues would no longer put older Americans into poverty. He also created HUD, or the Department of Housing and Urban Development, to ensure safe, adequate housing in cities and in rural areas so everyone could be safe and have shelter. While these programs did help some, there was a problem. Any idea what? No money. Due to the rising cost of the war in Vietnam, Johnson had escalated. There was no money left over for these domestic programs, and they were much less successful than hoped for. Though Johnson was elected in 1964, remember he took office in 1963, by the time he was permitted to run for re-election in 1968, he was incredibly unpopular due to Vietnam, his civil rights actions, and the failure of his programs to produce the expected results. So as you already know, Johnson then did not even run for re-election in 1968 and ended his presidency, and Richard Nixon became president at that time. And you will learn all about Nixon in our next set of notes because this is the end of Notes 5.21. Hopefully you learned something. I'll see you in class with any questions you have.